And now we have Hanming Fang, who's going to be a discussant.
Thank you, Olivia. I'm gonna make it full screen.
Yep.
Okay, so thank you very much. I really enjoyed the presentations by Axel, Yaohui, and Wolfgang. My brief discussions will echo many of the points being raised by the three excellent panelists. So just to recap some of the things that have already been talked about by different panelists. So we are all concerned about population aging, and I just want to point out that the typical way of quantifying population aging is to use either the average chronicle age of the population, which is rising, and additionally, another way to quantify the population aging problem is to use the old age dependency ratio, which is typically measured by the proportion of population over 64 relative to the working age population, mechanically defined to be those aged between 15 to 64. And Wolfgang, of course, in his remarks, pointed out that these may not be the preferred ways of thinking about population aging. I echo that point as well in my remarks later on. Okay, and just to be on the same page, why are we so feeling so kind of doomed or panicking about the population aging problem? Because people typically assume that old people are unproductive consumers of government benefits, and therefore rising old age dependency ratio implies slower economic growth and mounting pressure on public budgets. And these are the typical perceptions. And I know that Wolfgang and Axel both wanted to be more optimistic, want to take a more optimistic look at the whole problem. And I agree with that. And I basically want to put what's the typical view that people think about population aging on the table, then come back to revisit both of these statements. So needless to say, the key drivers of population aging are the increasing life expectancy and declining total fertility. Both are, in some, Axel mentioned these are good things, right? Increasing life expectancy is what we want, right? The whole healthcare sector around the world is aimed at improving quality of life, increasing life expectancy. Now life expectancy is rising. Why are we suddenly panicking about it, right? So that's one thing. Declining fertility in most parts of the world is a natural transition, is part of the result of natural demographic transition, trading off quality and quantity. And again, there's, these are the things that are not necessarily bad, right? And from China's perspective, of course, the life expectancy in China has gone up dramatically from 1850 to 2020, going from, increasing from barely about 30 life expectancy at birth to now about 76.5, right? So these are tremendous, improvement in life expectancy to be celebrated, right? And the total fertility over time in China is a little bit more human, the policy manufactured, starting from, early 1970, actually late 1960s, early 1970s, China started to initiating family planning policy. Initially is known as later longer, fewer policy, right? And then in 1979, it's replaced by one-child policy. And of course, you see drastic reductions in the fertility, total fertility rates in China. And as you both can see from both graphs, yes, life expectancy is rising pretty steadily, but it's plateauing out, right? And declining fertility is now a concern, but it will not continue declining to levels that we are seeing, low levels we are seeing now already in China. So I wanted to say basically, there are two distinct aging population issues. One is related to the in the transition, right? That as we have experienced the last half century, very rapid rise in life expectancy and a rapid decline in total fertility. And together with cohort size changes, for example, in the United States, there was a baby, a boomer generation right after the Second World War, followed by a baby bust generation, right? Though these cohort size changes, rapid declining fertility rates and rising life expectancy might temporarily push up the older age dependency ratio. Right, that's I would say population aging problem in the transition, but then eventually the fertility rates and life expectancy also will eventually reach some sort of a steady state level, and we will be we'll be facing older age older population in the steady state. And here I would say, let me just come back to the transition problem. In the transition problem, people are worried about the ability to fund social pension, like Yaohui mentioned, right? Healthcare costs, etc. Right? But I would say, the ability to fund these social pension problems, healthcare cost problems, related to the population aging in the transition, really depends a lot on the total productivity, total output of the economy, and the political will, right? So it's not that our society now is unable to pay for the social pension cost and the healthcare costs of the aging population in the transition. Politically, it may be difficult, but the society, for example, a country like China, definitely is wealthy enough to pay for the social pension and healthcare costs of the aging population in the transition. In the steady state, however, I would echo Andrew Scott and Linda Granton's points about the need to re-examine what it really means by old age. And I will later on elaborate a little bit by trying to distinguish chronological age from biological age. And I will also briefly mention points that Axel and Wolfgang both mentioned, and the idea of health, and Yaohui as well, the idea of healthy aging and the compression of morbidity. Okay. And I would say that the public health campaigns of our generation, of our time, should be really focusing on healthy aging, right? In the early part of this of the 20th century, the world have witnessed large mortality declines because of public the water system, public health campaigns, eliminating infant mortality death, etc. Right? So we need to engage in a new public health campaign focusing on healthy aging and focusing on lifestyle changes. And finally, how to get older workers into workforce by increasing their labor force participation, or just make it easier for them to continue working. I think I will here actually relate to some points that Linda Granton will be talking about related to job designs, job redesigns, to make it easier for older workers to continue working in the labor market. So this is a slide showing the increases in life expectancy and a healthy life expectancy, right? So actually this is, I only included the increases in healthy life expectancy in the last 20 years, right? So this is around the world. In 2000, the healthy life expectancy at birth is 58.3 years. And 20 years later, in 2019, the healthy life expectancy went up by more than, close to more than 5 years, right? So you can see that life expectancy is rising, but healthy life expectancy, is also rising as well. And age 60, the healthy life expectancy went up. In 2000 was 14.1 years. Now, in 20 years later, it's 15.8 years. You can expect to live another 15.8 years of healthy life at age 60 in 2019, right? So this idea that the age at the onset of the first chronic infirmity can be postponed more rapidly than the age of death is known as compression morbidity, first raised by James Rice. And that would imply that lifetime illness burden may be compressed into a shorter period of time nearer to the age of death. And healthy living, empirical evidence subsequent to Freud's hypothesis of compression morbidity show that healthy living and the reduction of health risks have played a huge role in the compression of morbidity. Reductions in smoking rate, obesity, exercise, and sleep all contribute, right, to contribute to, all relate to the onset of first chronic infirmity. And in addition, medical innovation introduced in the past few decades also contribute to the delay in morbidity. Joint replacement, statins, better control diabetes, etc., all make people being able to live free of infirmity for longer periods of time than they used to. And that suggests that we may want to think about redefining what it means by aging. Right? Population aging, as I mentioned earlier, leads to widespread panic, often with the terms such as demographic time bomb or demographic cliff. It is feared that it's bad news for the economy because in the aging society, few people work and contribute to the economic growth, more people collect pensions and demand healthcare. However, there is an expanding gap, right, between chronological age and the biological age. And chronological age is purely based on the years one was born, is deterministic, and does not adapt at all to the medical and public health advances over time. However, the biological age accounts for the differences in health, including disease, morbidity, and mortality, among others, in its calculation. So there's new phrase that people often use is that the World Bank actually is saying something like that. In Japan, for example, 80 is a new 65, right? What's the basis for such a statement? Well, the basis is typically that looking at the mortality rates, right? So, for example, in the United States, a 75-year-old today has the same mortality rates as a 65-year-old in 1952, right? So, in that sense, if you think about age-specific mortality rate as a measure of biological age, then there is a way to think about 75-year-old today is no different biologically as a 65-year-old in 1952, right? In fact, as an actuarial matter, today's 75-year-olds are not any older than the 65-year-olds of 1950s. So I think this is what Andrew Scott and Linda Granton mentioned in their book as well. And systematically, I think there might be a need to redefine aging by biological ages using some sort of linking function, particularly maybe the age-specific mortality rates over time as a linking function to convert chronological ages to biological ages. To that way, it can allow us to have a more kind of nuanced way of thinking about older age dependency ratio, similar to what Wolfgang mentioned, using either labor force dependency ratio or productivity weighted labor force dependency ratio, right? Both will paint a much more optimistic picture about the aging problems we face today.
2 minutes. 2.
Okay. So this is my last slide. So I will just briefly mention the implications, policy implications that that came out of the discussions from the 3 panelists. So of course, retirement income security is an important issue, and I would say, besides encouraging delay in retirement, etc., there is a role for financial product innovations to ensure retirement income security. Some of my own research show that the Chinese, for example, households have most of their close to 80% of their household wealth in the form of housing. Okay, and that housing wealth is of course related to the drastic boom in housing prices in China in the last 20 years, and using financial product innovations such as properly designed reverse mortgage products to release housing equity to help finance retirement income security will be an important thing to consider. I already mentioned public health campaigns of our generation is going to be play a very important role in basically dealing with the old age problem in the steady state, right? In the steady state, our population will be older, and it's very important to delay the onset of the infirmities, and the public health campaigns should be targeted toward that goal, which will involve lifestyle campaigns, right, such as diet, exercise, stop smoking,
resell the job market, but they have to
for improving social interactions. The role of technology will also be will also be extended. Typically, we think about role of technology as a way to increase productivity, to increase total output, to pay for retirement. Here, I would say technology will also play the additional role in the form of medical innovation to delay the onset of morbidity, right? And that way, it can actually help extend the life, the working life of the population. And anticipating what Linda will say later on, job redesign should be targeted to incorporate older workers in the job market. We should rethink about age, possibly to address the political will issue. It seemed to be reasonable to index retirement chronological age of retirement to healthy life expectancy of the population in the country. Some countries like Sweden has already started doing that. And there are also a lot of other macroeconomic policy implications of an older population. That consumption saving, life cycle consumption saving patterns will differ by age. So older population means that you will have fewer savings, right? That will have implications, macroeconomic implications. The consumption patterns of older individuals differ from the consumption patterns of the younger individuals. And to the extent that older individuals hold less debt, there will be an older population will exhibit lower sensitivity to interest rate as a macro policy instrument.
We should wrap it up.
Yeah, finally, I would say the focus should be on improving productivity by improving education and importantly, equal access to education. Thank you very much.